Good morning, afternoon, or evening, y'all. My name is Shannon, and today we are talking about two of my favorite things in the entire world: Miss Taylor Swift and books. And this video is going to be me recommending books based off of songs from the Tortured Poets Department, Taylor's newest album. I absolutely love it. I wanted to wait like a little while before I made this video just because I wanted to let the songs marinate for a little while before I decided what books made me think of them. I did not do one for like every song because that video would probably turn out to be an hour long and I'm not gonna do that. So let's just get started. For Fortnight, the first song on the album, features Post Malone. Adore it. For that song, I'm going to have to go with Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. This book and this entire series and album can go hand in hand. I could probably relate 95% of the songs in the Tortured Poets Department to Magnolia Parks, but that would be repetitive and boring for you guys, so I'm not gonna do that. But Fortnight just is the embodiment of them, and the lyrics apply to like the both of them in some parts and then are more specific in other parts. Oh my gosh. So it says, I was a functioning alcoholic till nobody noticed my new aesthetic, which is so BJ because he had such a problem with drugs and alcohol and over partying after he and Magnolia broke up for the first time before the series even started. And then it says, your wife waters flowers, I want to kill her, which is so Magnolia because in the second Magnolia Parks book, not Daisy Hates, but Magnolia Parks A Long Way Home, BJ does have his first ever girlfriend since Magnolia, and she just has this all-consuming rage to hate her in parts of the book. And then the line that just applies to both of them is, I love you, it's ruining my life. And that is kind of a common theme throughout this entire series, not just the Magnolia Parks books, but it immediately made me think of this book when I first heard the chorus, I love you, it's ruining my life. Next, we have My Boy Only Breaks His Favorite Toys, and I'm going to reveal what book I'm recommending for this, but I will be saying that I'm going to be saying spoilers, and if you don't want to listen to them, skip to whatever timestamp I put on the screen. Anywho, for this song, I would have to go with A Court of Thorns and Roses. These are all of my copies of the first book in the series, but allergies. The lines that made me specifically think about this series were, I'm the queen of sandcastles he destroys, because I knew too much. There was danger in the heat of my touch. He saw forever, so he smashed it up. And then there's another line that says, once I fixed me, he's gonna miss me. Stole my tortured heart, left all these broken parts. Told me I'm better off, but I'm not. And this just reminded me so much of Farrah and Tamlin's relationship, especially in the second book where she's just drowning basically and he doesn't even really care. And then it also reminded me of the beginning of ACOWAR with how she's finally back there and she kind of allows him to destroy the public's perception of him in his court. And oh my god, I just not only love those books, but it just immediately made me think of them because just all the stuff that's like stole my tortured heart, of all these broken parts, that is Farrah in the beginning of the second book. And she does end up putting her pieces back together, but it's a completely different person basically at the end of her transformation. Anywho, I love that series so much. And then for So Long London, special track number 5, I had to go with Daisy Hates the Great Undoing. This is the 4th book in the Magnolia Parks series as a whole. but it is the second Daisy hates book, if that makes sense. The lines that reminded me of this was, I kept calm and carried the weight of the rift, pulled him in tighter each time he was drifting away. This specifically resembles Daisy and Tiller's relationship in this book. They were starting off kind of fine, but the second they moved back in with Julian and the Hates family gang, kind of, the distance and the drifting away, it was so prevalent. And then there was another line that says, and you say I abandoned the ship, but I was going down with it, my white-knuckled dying grip. Throughout this entire book, once they move back in with Julian, there are so many metaphors and comparing Tiller and her's relationship to a sinking ship, specifically the Titanic. I'm sure I'll be able to find. For instance, there's this line in the book that says, there's a sad and desperate urgency to us right now. Two people clinging to a life raft, big breaths that feel like last rites. And just, it's so consistent throughout the book. I know that there's a line where it's like, it's past midnight at this point, the water's at our ankles, and oh my gosh. But such a good book. And it just, the second I heard her talking about going down with the ship, I was like, oh my gosh, this is absolutely Daisy and Tiller's relationship. Anywho, and then we have But Daddy I Love Him, and for this I had to go with Hooked by Emily McIntyre. This is the first in the Never After series. This book specifically is a 5-star read for me. I just absolutely adore this book, but the lines that reminded me of it were, dutiful daughter, all my plans were laid, tendrils tucked into a woven braid, growing up precocious sometimes means not growing up at all. He was chaos, he was revelry, bedroom eyes like a remedy, me and my wild boy, and all this wild joy. So this book is a Peter Pan retelling, but it's kind of like a fractured fairy tale, more like. So Wendy is Peter's daughter, and James and Peter have been business rivals for years, and so James sets out to date Wendy to kind of get back at her father, and something happens where they all end up at a public gathering. I think it might be a gala or an auction or something, and they end up at the same table, and her father was completely oblivious to this relationship, but he has just neglected his relationship with his daughter for so long, expecting her to just like keep her head down, do as she's asked, but she's just kind of over it. And when he sees that they're together there, he kind of like flips out, and she basically just like tells him off, and he's like, this is my life, I'm not just gonna be your like little daughter anymore. But it really reminded me of that, and it's just so good. Next, we have Florida, which features Florence and the Machine, who is also one of my favorite artists. I literally love this song, but for this song, I'm going to have to go with Binding 13. So the lyrics that specifically made me think of this book were, little did you know, your home's really only a town you're just a guest in, so you work your life away just to pay for a timeshare down in Destin. That specifically just instantly reminded me of this book, because while it is a very heartfelt romance, our main girl Shannon is really going through it at home. She has such a bad home life where her father is a monster pretty much, and she walks on eggshells around him. She hates being at her own house, and it's really not even her house, it's just a prison basically for her, and it just reminded me of that so much. And then there's another line that says, yes, I'm haunted, but I'm feeling just fine. All my girls got their lace in their crimes, and your cheating husband disappeared. Well, no one asks any questions here. Specifically in Keeping 13, which is the second book in this series, something happens where the father kind of disappears for a little bit, and it just reminded me of this so much, because no one cared that he was gone. It was like a good riddance, like, get the out kind of thing. But it just really reminded me of that song. The next song we're gonna talk about is probably my favorite song on the album, just because it reminds me so much of Reputation, and it's Who's Afraid of Little Old Me. There are two books that I want to talk about specifically in reference to this, although I could probably name so many more, just because it's such a power ballad basically for all powerful FMCs. But it specifically reminded me of two specific books, and the first one is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. I have only read the first book in this series, but I absolutely love Jude. She's probably one of my favorite FMCs to date. But it says, I was tame, I was gentle, till the circus life made me mean. Don't you worry, folks, we took out all her teeth. Who's afraid of little old me? And that just basically describes Jude to a T. She is a human living in the Fae world because she was taken there when she was a child. Her parents were killed, and basically no one takes her seriously. And she gets bullied to extreme lengths. I actually really hated Carden at the start of this book because of it, but she turns into such a morally gray FMC, which I feel like is something we don't really get to see a whole lot, where she just kind of burns the world down around her, and I just loved it. And then there's another line, and it says, who's afraid of little old me? You should be. I am what I am, 'cause you trained me. And Jude's basically stepfather, the person that took her away from her parents when she was a child, consistently trains her and teaches her to be like a fighter pretty much. And I'm not going to spoil anything, but there is a kind of conflict between the two of them in this book, and it's just so good, especially because there's this moment where she is basically like, I am what I am because I'm your daughter. And it is, oh my god, I just loved it so much. And it just really reminded me of that book. And then the second book that I thought of for this song was Shatter Me, just the Shatter Me series in general. But the main line that reminded me of this book was, I want to snarl and show you just how disturbed this has made me. You wouldn't last an hour in the asylum where they raised me. And if you don't know, Juliet starts this book off in an insane asylum because she has been put there because she kills people by touching them. And she has a journal in this place, and we get to see entries throughout the series, but she basically kept herself sane through this book, and it just reminded me so much because, simply put, they wouldn't last in the asylum. And then the same line goes, who's afraid of little old me? You should be. Juliet is such an incredibly powerful and strong character. When I first started this series, I was like, oh my god, she can kill people with her touch. It is so much more than that. She is so much powerful than she realizes, than you realize, and it's just incredible to watch her grow into it, and I just loved it so much. Next, we have I Can Fix Him. No, really, I can. For this song, I'm going to have to go with Twisted Love by Anne Huang. The line that specifically reminded me of this book was, but your good Lord doesn't need to lift a finger. I can fix him. No, really, I can. And only I can. Good boy, that's right. Come close. I'll show you heaven if you'll be an angel all night. Trust me, I can handle a dangerous man. No, really, I can. And this book is about Alex and Ava. Ava is Alex's best friend's little sister, and he is going away, I think, to Doctors Without Borders. But he asks Alex to keep a close watch on his little sister for him, and he's very dark, twisty, very, very high-powered businessman, and he is also not afraid to do some dark dealings in business, and just a very morally gray person. Ava, I don't I don't want to say she thinks she can fix him, but she definitely sees that there is a softer side to this man that he presents to the rest of the world, and she definitely finds it, and it's just a very cute, very wholesome romance in my opinion. I know some people really don't like this book in the series, but I love it, and it just reminded me a lot of this song because she really, I don't want to say she fixes him, but she really does change who he is as a person. Next, we have LOML, Love of My Life or Loss of My Life, depending on how you want to phrase it. But for this song, I had to go with Happy Place by Emily Henry. I recently just read this past month, and I absolutely adored it. The lyrics that specifically made me think of this were, what we thought was for all time was momentary. Still alive, killing time at the cemetery, never quite buried. This book is about Harriet and Wynne, and they have recently broken up. They have not yet told their friends, and it flashes back and forth between when they were like falling in love in a relationship to present day when they're broken up, and it really seemed like they had a very special soulmate kind of love. It ended up kind of falling apart. But then there's another line that says, "Who's gonna stop us from waltzing back into rekindled flames if we know the steps anyway?" And this is in fact a second chance romance where, because their friends are unaware of their breakup, they are all on a vacation trip together, and they are pretending that they are still together because something is going on where they don't really want to ruin it for their friends. And it's just so good. This was much more of an emotional read than I was predicting it was. I was sobbing at the end, but it just really reminded me of it. Next, we have I Can Do It With a Broken Heart. This song, oh my gosh. First of all, it broke me when I first listened to it. The lyrics are so incredibly sad, but it is a total bop. And the book that I instantly thought of was Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This entire song is basically this book summarized. Anywho, the specific lines that reminded me of it were, "Lights, camera, bitch, smile, even when you want to die. Breaking down, I hit the floor, all the pieces of me shattered as the crowd was chanting more. I'm so obsessed with him, but he avoids me like the plague." And then, of course, "'Cause I can do it with a broken heart." Daisy Jones, she joins this band at the lead singer's very reluctant acceptance of her into his band, and he kind of hates her. I'm not even gonna lie, but there is this connection between the two of them because they're both very tortured in their artistry, and they both kind of have drug problems, except Billy got clean. But when he sees her doing all of this and being free, it's just like an ultimate temptation for him, and she is wholly in love with him. And I'm not even gonna lie, he's kind of in love with her too, but he's married and has kids, and so he'll never do anything about it really. And it basically destroys Daisy and just absolutely crushes her. But she like keeps going because they're on tour and they have these songs to make, and it just reminded me so much of her. Okay, we have two more. The next song I'm gonna talk about is I'm Gonna Get You Back. I am actually currently reading this, so I haven't finished it fully, but it definitely reminded me of the song Things We Left Behind by Lucy Score. The lyrics that came to my mind for this book were, "Whether I'm gonna be your wife or gonna smash up your bike, I haven't decided yet, but I'm gonna get you back. Whether I'm gonna curse you out or take you back to my house, I haven't decided yet." These two, Lucian and Sloane, they were never romantically involved in their childhood, but they had such a connection. They just never cross that line. And then something kind of happens where still 20 years later, they loathe each other. And I mean, they're literally in the same friend group, and all they do is, I don't want to say make fun of each other because that sounds too light, because they're mean about it. But one day, the dam kind of breaks, and they're finally dealing with what they feel for each other, and it literally feels like she could either like hate him or love him, and there's no in between. And then there's another line that says, "You'll find that you were never not mine. Push the reset button, we're becoming something new. I told my friends I hate you, but I love you just the same." Because as I said, they're in the same friend group, and all their friends are like, what the is going on with you two? You guys have always been at each other's throats. I don't understand why you can't just get along. And they'll literally be like, I literally hate him or her, depending on who's speaking, but they always have a sense of belonging to one another. Even in the previous books in the series, Lucian will go out of his way to protect her and just keep her safe. And I just love them so, so much, and I'm so excited to finish this. Okay, the last song I'm going to talk about, because this video is already long enough, is The Albatross. And I originally thought I wanted to do ACOTAR for this, but because I did already talk about it, I came up with a different series to talk about, and it is the Hunger Games series. This song embodies these books, but the lyrics specifically were, "Locked me up in towers, but I'd visit you in your dreams, and they tried to warn you about me. She's the albatross, she is here to destroy you. Devils that you know, raise worse hell than a stranger. You're in terrible danger." But that could basically apply to either the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes or the Hunger Games series. Just Lucy Gray and Katniss as a whole embody this in terms of President Snow. Specifically, she's the albatross, she is here to destroy you. Because while Lucy Gray never set out to do it, she did destroy him for the rest of his life. And Katniss wanted to destroy him for everything that he's done to her, her family, the one she loves. And for Lucy Gray, the "Locked me up in towers, but I'd visit in your dreams, and they tried to warn you about me." Snow's grandmother specifically in this book was like, you can't trust them, they're district. And he was like, she's different, she's different. He even changed his life to go be with her, but it ended up ruining his life and completely changing him as a person. Oh my gosh, it just reminded me of this so much, and I absolutely loved the way that they destroy him, in all honesty, because Katniss truly is the end of him, and he does it to himself in hindsight. But those are all of the songs that I'm going to compare to books today. I sincerely hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. All of my social media is linked down below for you guys. Make sure you turn on the post notification bell so you guys can get notified right when I post a new video. I hope you all are having an absolutely wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are in the world. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!